Hello, 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 good people, and welcome to Happy Healthy Whole with Sharea. I am Sharea, and I am hoping that you've been following along on our end of the year series around Black women's mental health and taking care of ourselves. And so we talked about embracing change, we talked about healing from 2024, and now we're talking about building resilience. And welcome to episode three, I think this is. Oh, yeah, that's three, right? And so today we're going to really dive into the topic around this way of embracing change and acknowledging that we need to heal, but also establishing for us as Black women resilience. And resilience is really about this ability to bounce back from adversity, to keep ourselves from facing. To keep going when we're facing challenges or obstacles. But for Black women, resilience has this unique significance because it's shaped in both race, gender, and identity. And what that means is that a lot of times when we're exploring these areas of resilience, it's sometimes what people have put on us versus what, and then in turn we internalize it. And then it also becomes this thing that we believe we cultivate through not being vulnerable and having emotions. And so I want us to explore resilience from the perspective of us being whole humans and whole people who have a right to have all emotions. And so let's explore resilience from the means and how we can cultivate it in our lives and still honor our humanity and our ability to be our best selves, right? So today I'm going to do this again. I'm trying to keep them short. You'll see my goal, I'm a talker, but it's my goal is to try. The first thing I want us to do when we think about building resilience is explore mental, emotional, and physical resilience. There are different types of resilience that we are able to embrace, but many times in our community, we've learned practices that are surrounding some of the physical resilience, going to the gym, eating well, running, taking care of ourselves physically so that we look good and feel good, buying the nice bags, getting our hair done. So we know some of the methods that it takes for us to feel good and have that instant gratification around feeling good in the moment, and that builds up resilience. And I want to stress this, there's nothing wrong with those things, but they are not the only things that we need to explore when we think about resilience. We need to think about resilience from both our mental and our emotional state as well. Resilience just isn't about one aspect of our lives. It's about really encompassing mental and emotional health as well as your physical well-being. So when you think about exploring it from that perspective, what is your mental clarity, your emotional balance? How do you regulate your emotion? How do you know your self-awareness around your emotion? We've heard a lot about emotional intelligence, and I'll link it in this video if you're on YouTube, as well as if you're on the podcast, you can go back to our ones on emotional intelligence. But when we think about emotional and the mental, excuse me, mental and emotional well-being, we have to think about how are we mentally clear? What are we doing to take care of our minds? What are we doing to make sure that we are able to come back to the presence, be available to ourselves, and to be aware of what we're feeling and what we know? And so that's that emotional balance. And so I always think about it from how do we know how to identify what we're feeling, deal with what we're feeling, and then adapt and or create a method of coping towards what that feeling brings up for us. So if it's anxiety, what are we doing to deal with anxiety? If it's anger, what are we doing to deal with anger? So finding that emotional balance to nurturing our minds as well as our bodies through self-care and health practices will allow us to be ourselves best selves. So that first form of building and thinking about resilience is to look at it from more than just the perspective of physical health, but both emotional and mental health. We have to take care of those areas. And so, if you are looking for some methods, you can go back to a lot of our old videos around different ways to build your mental health or to respond to anxiety or respond to anger. There's different ways that you may need to build resilience based off of your response emotionally and mentally. And so I'm not going to get into all of them, but remember how important it is for us to build those areas as Black women and the work that we do. All right. The next thing is sharing stories of Black women who have overcome adversities. It is important to remember that we are not alone in these journeys. We have different women who have gone through different things that have built resilience based off of their journeys and their stories, be it your mothers, be it your friends, your family, but also if you can't find it in your individual circle, you can find it in history. You can look up and or Google or these days go to some form of AI and just put in Black women who have resilient stories and who have survived. And that way you'll see that there's different ways that people have different things and different ways that people have done in terms of taking care of themselves. I recently watched a story of a woman who was trafficked when she was younger in Atlanta. And then now she has an organization where she rescues other women who are young women or young girls who are being trafficked in the US. And so she's actively taking her story of adversity and changing it into resilience and actively doing something to take care of herself while also taking care of others. Now, that may not be the story that you need to be motivated or to find resilience, but there's just an example of it not having to be a name like Oprah or some other famous Black woman that you may know, or Michelle Obama. It can be stories that are about those who are in our community, your local areas. Find someone that you can identify as being strong through their journey and say, hey, I'd like to know how they got there. I'd like to know how they maintain their health. And then ask them, right? Finding that stories will help you yourself to build the reminder that we are resilient as a community, that we are able to get through things, and that as individuals, we may have a story that can be shared with others. So even consider sharing your story of resilience so that other Black women can build from that and learn how to be stronger or different from their own adversities. So if you like, this would be a space that I would love for you to comment a story of resilience, how you've gotten through it, and or what things you do daily to deal with your mental, emotional, or physical well-being. And then the last tip in terms of building resilience is building a resilience toolkit. Practical tips and resources always help. Resilience can be cultivated in many ways, and while I've provided a number of tips over the years, you have to build up your resources and your toolkit to find out what works for you. You have to be willing to create that toolkit in advance and actually look at how it impacts who you are and what you're going to do in the world. So think about building your toolkit. For me, it's mindfulness. For others, it's meditation. So think about what that means. For others, it's dance, movement, it's walking, it's running, it's journaling, it's reflecting, it's community support in circles, healing circles, it's setting up boundaries and saying no and yes to you. These are things that can help you to build your toolkit up. So I'm not giving the tips in this area today because we've done these things many of times, but building your toolkit is going to help you to have a way to respond in the moment when you are overwhelmed or finding it's hard to deal with some of the change we have to embrace. So empowering yourself with this toolkit in advance can help you to deal with future challenges and have a greater sense of strength and confidence that make you feel resilience. Resilience isn't about something you're just born with. It isn't about something that you just had. It's a skill that you can cultivate and strengthen over the years and over time. So as Black women, our resilience is our superpower, helping us navigate the world with when things are often sometimes set up against us, or we have challenges that make us feel or look like we're not as valuable. But we can face things and see them as opportunities when we have the resilience to say that we are here, we are strong, and we are also emotional humans who deserve love and care and comfort and vulnerability like every other person as we grow stronger and resilient and more resilient while also being human in that method. All right, y'all, take good care of yourselves. I will see you again on the other side. Be well.